All right. Good morning. This is Jay Tubb here with Holistic Living, talking to my buddy Pete Kane, who I re-met in May at a 50th high school reunion. And here we are doing podcasts together.
I love it.
And I'm really grateful because I had been thinking about doing podcasts for years now, not knowing how to go about it, or like thinking in big terms of technology and having, a mixing board and a microphone and all that stuff I'm used to from radio, which I've done for a long time. But here we are. I'm interviewing Pete today because he is my coach for podcasting. So he's got a lot of information and a little bit of background in holistic living. Why don't you tell us about that, Pete?
Yeah. So I had a stroke about almost 4 years ago, and I've always been into holistic living, but I really never lived it from the standpoint of handling stress. Growing up dyslexic and ADD, I just kind of always was chasing and busy, but I always had an eye for holistic. I tried to eat right. I tried to exercise. I ran. I did all the things that I thought were appropriate, but I never knew really until almost 4 years ago, dialing into people that knew more than me that could help me in the journey. I always was a do-it-yourselfer, figure it out, get a book, read a podcast. Listen to a podcast, or maybe even not even that back years. I'd listen to books on tape. I was kind of a holistic guy, but now I look for people that can help me in my journey, like yourself, that has spent 40 years in this holistic living community.
Right. Yeah. Similarly, I was attracted to, well, I guess we graduated from high school in 1975. So about, 6 or 7 years too late to be a hippie, right? From the 60s. And so I kind of wanted to grab a hold of whatever I could about that. Lifestyle and food, of course, were a big part of that. And also music and, thinking alternatively, I think, was what really drew me into holistic living, natural foods, vitamins and herbs, to see what there is out there, because modern medicine has some really great things about it, but also some things that are kind of one size fits all. And I'm curious about what works and what doesn't. And I see a lot of over-reliance on antibiotics, for instance, in mainstream medicine. So if there's something else that I can use, like a white willow bark for headaches, which is where we get the ingredient for aspirin, which is salicylic acid, is right in there. And so many examples like that I've discovered through the years. So that's why I wanted to do a podcast showcasing what I know. Because people don't look at me and go like, "Oh, you're my holistic living guru," because they just go, "He's the guy," who, what credentials do I have other than what I know? So that's a good starting point. And so you got involved in thinking holistically because of your stroke. What sort of steps did you take?
Good question. I'd always been aware of what I put in my body, and I found that sugar and myself, we got along, but it didn't get along with me. I mean, I liked it, but it didn't get along with me. And as far as my concentration and the way I performed, I knew I had to kind of get away from it to really perform. And when I had my stroke, I was with a guy who was more holistic, and he gave me two books: Peter Attias, his book, and The Glucose Revolution. And it kind of changed just the way I thought about it, because one, the book by Peter Attias was like about 3 inches thick. And I told the guy, I said, I don't read that much. And so he said, well, get it on audio. And I did. And I just ate up the fact, all the different things that he talked about. And I think what I pulled away from it is there's so much information out there. I had to find trusted resources. And these were the two that I really looked at. There was another one, Uberman. I don't remember his first name, but Dr. Uberman. I like what he had to say, and I found it on YouTube, and I just kind of dove into trying to close my gap on holistic. I'd always look for like bio coffee, whether it was Focus Factor 20 years ago. Everything that had to do with nutrition, I tried it. And sometimes stuff would stick and I'd continue with it, but I was always testing my body. And I think we've had numerous discussions about everybody has a different body, and you have to test things because you just don't know how it's going to work with your body. And so I know, talking with you, I'm even leaning in more to testing and seeing how my body, responds to things. But it's been a journey of many, many, many years.
Yeah, that's great. Do you remember the name of that Peter Attias book?
Yes, I'm going to think it was like Living, or no, it begins with an L. Let me say it. It's got to be on my bookshelf.
Oh yeah, that's great. It's right behind you somewhere.
Yeah, it is. It's not featured. Oh no, I know why. I never bought it. I bought the audio. That's why it's not up there.
Oh
I
right.
want to say it's something like, it's one word, living, aliveness, or something. But we'll put it out there because it was an excellent one. Everybody that I feel has a really good knowledge of it, they mention this guy. He's a doctor,
Okay.
surgeon, and he just transformed into more not only what you put in your body, but how you exercise and how you move and how you just stay healthy by moving. So it's something like Livid or something like that.
How do you
But
spell his
Peter,
last name?
Attiais. Attlais. No,
Lais.
no,
Okay.
no, one T, Attlais.
Okay. Yeah, that's that way people can Google as they're listening to the rest of this.
Yeah.
Hopefully afterwards. But yeah, so tell me how you got into podcasting.
So when I had my stroke, my partner, I had a digital marketing business, which I think probably contributed to my stroke. But
Well,
maybe
sure.
not. There's probably a bunch of
Stress
things.
doesn't help.
But it was just stressful. So stress and all the things. But what happened is, he said, Pete, you like golf. Why don't you do podcasting? And I was at the time learning how to talk again. Because so my left side was drooping, and I'm trying to like get it moving again. So I did. I jumped in. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was losing podcasts. I was not calling on people, because we would do 4 at a time, like a foursome for golf. And it was a disaster. I was about as untrained as you could possibly find. But I mean, I've done about 450, so I got a little bit better each time. But I
Sure.
think where I found my calling or found my passion was I wasn't a writer. I flunked English. I got out of high school later than you did. Even though we were in the same class, it took me summer school to get out. But
Father
anyway,
Pat was not easy.
yeah, he failed me and I didn't even come close. I mean, I wasn't even like usually like if you get 68, the teacher might round up and get you
Right.
through. But he probably looked at my grade and said, "Man, there's no rounding up here." So, anyway, I found myself learning differently, but when I could talk, I felt like I was home. I felt like I just had to learn to ask questions, listen, do the different things that come in time. But I enjoyed being on a podcast and learning about people's stories. So I couldn't do enough of them. I was doing like 10 a day, 10 a week because I just loved it. I felt it was helping me talk better and just get rehab from the stroke. So I kind of just it was a marriage made in podcast heaven.
That's great. Yeah. I really appreciate the value of podcasts in this day and age, particularly because we live in such a fast-paced society. And I know, just like you, rather than read a book, I'd rather listen to it,
Mhm.
largely because my current job involves a lot of time in the car.
Mhm.
So it's perfect match, and I can bring it up anytime I want, when I have time, rather
Yes.
than having to tune in to a certain time to a show or
Mhm.
that kind of thing. And it's I think there's a lot of podcasting right now. I think it's gonna explode as to become more of a normal way that people interact with education, because I think we're geared towards doing just what we're doing right now, is like looking at somebody else's face and
Mhm.
getting the information
Mhm.
versus reading letters on the page, which has um, been with us for not as long as oral language. And of course, humans started off passing information on by uh, verbally with stories and
Mhm.
that kind of information. So I think our brains are already kind of geared towards that, which is
Absolutely.
why it's going to be bigger in the future. And I look forward to being part of that. I mean, like, you've helped me realize how much I have to pass on, because I kind of take it for granted. I mean,
Yep.
like you said earlier, I've been in holistic living and natural products and sales and marketing for almost 40 years.
Mhm.
So I've accumulated a lot of things. Um, when I walk through a health food store, it's kind of like being at a gathering of my old girlfriends, because I walk down the aisle and go like, "Oh yeah, I remember that brand. I used to sell it back in the 90s."
Mhm.
And so I'm very familiar with a lot of products. Um, and shoot, I should probably start a TikTok channel pushing
Yeah,
products.
absolutely. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about you don't realize how much you have learned about a certain topic until maybe something gets reversed. Like my partner, he's an AI specialist, and he was the one that encouraged me to podcast. And he's the smartest guy I know. But he would always say, I didn't realize that I was doing this and it was so rare, because you see yourself through your own eyes, but somebody else sees it
Right.
through different eyes. And podcasting gave me the ability to really exercise a side of me, because I always felt like you said, I had it in me, but I didn't know what to do with it. It's kind of like you have it up here
Hmm.
and it's up here, but there's a lot of things up here. podcasting gives you the ability to get it out. I always tell in my Rotary, I say to people, because these are servants, and I would ask them about a couple years ago if they wanted to be a guest on my podcast. They would all turn me down because they're used to serving. They don't want to have the light shine on them.
Oh, right.
But I got them to think this way. If we don't shine out, like if you're not allowing people to get to know Jay Tubb, how can they benefit? So you shine out through podcasting. The people that want you shine in. So it's kind of like that. It's reversed, and his thinking is totally different. So from a standpoint of getting it out of your head into the areas out there where people can get to know, like, and trust you, because there's plenty of information out there. There'll be people that will say, man, my go-to guy is Jay Tubb because he's got 40 years in this industry. I took his course. I took this. I listened to this. I learned this. And they become really so used to you, they know, like, and trust you online. And I think that's the biggest challenge I saw. People are key persons of influence. Like when you walk in that health food store, you are at home because you know all about it. However, most people walk into a health food store and it's like overwhelming. They don't know.
Yeah.
They look at all these products, hundreds of products, and they're going, what do I do first? Like, I just want to get healthy. But it takes a person like yourself to say, okay, like you said, what do you want to accomplish? You asked the best questions when we were talking, this was a couple months ago, to somebody you ran into who was looking at a product and asked you a question. And your question to them was, what are you looking to accomplish? Because you have to understand what they want. They may not know what they want, but they want results. And you're there to say, and you walk them through, well, here's what would, based on what you're telling me, this would be a good option to pursue. But again, everybody's body is different. So test it and see how you respond, and then start your journey. Start your journey on being as healthy as you possibly can.
Yeah, the journey I think should involve a lot of self-education because we live in a society that kind of puts doctors on a pedestal, which, they do have some great knowledge, and most of them are really wanting to help people, but all too often they don't have training in more natural methods like vitamins and herbs, some. And I've found, especially after talking to hundreds of people in the aisle of health food stores, they come in and they ask for recommendations, which of course that's a little delicate because we can't really prescribe things or diagnose them, but I could ask them what's going on and then carefully couch it and like in my opinion, or I've seen I've seen a lot of things that have been very useful to people. For instance, this poor guy came into our health food store back late 90s. And he would come in and get a bottle of liquid kava, which it's a very relaxing herb. But what he had discovered is that he was a little OCD, and he would get into trouble because he would get attracted to women, especially some of the women that worked at the store were like, in their 20s, good looking girls, women. And he couldn't stop his brain from getting into a loop thinking about them. And he took the kava kava and he said it just cut it off. So he felt like he didn't want to get into trouble.
Mhm.
So he turned to that because there wasn't really anything uh, in mainstream medicine that would work as well. I mean, probably the closest thing would be like psychotropic drugs, which have a really heavy footprint, and you
Mhm.
don't want to take that just for something minor. But yeah, there's so many instances like that of where I learned from talking to people.
Mhm.
Sometimes hearing stories that like probably went a little too far. TMI, like, oh yeah, I don't want to hear about your hernia, thanks.
Yeah.
Um, but it's people open up when they feel like you're a trusted authority,
Mhm.
and by the time I had been in natural foods for 20 years, I've talked to so many people, and a lot of times not knowing an answer, but we always had reference books on hand, so we could
Mhm.
like look something up and it's like, oh, I remember one time one of the women I worked with. I've never seen this before, but I've heard about it. She, poor thing, got hiccups, and
Mhm.
she was hiccuping for hours, and
Wow.
it was driving her nuts. And so I looked up, just kind of like digestive problems in this book that had multiple modalities and practices
Mhm.
described in it. And I found an acupressure point right on her hand. And it was amazing because I just went and pressed on her, like right about here on her hand, and
Mhm.
the hiccups stopped.
Wow.
So there's something in there about like meridians from the Chinese medicine, these energy patterns of the body. I don't know. I'm not educated in that, but
Yeah.
I can find stuff. Um, and when it works, it works. I mean, it's great. It's so many similar stories to that. Herbs, vitamins, homeopathic medicine. I've
Mhm.
seen the most amazing things. I mean, especially being a parent. I remember one night my infant daughter. I
Mhm.
guess my wife had eaten broccoli or something with a lot of sulfur, and it gave my daughter colic. And
Hmm.
at 2 in the morning, she's like wailing in pain, and I had a homeopathic formula that was in a little vial, and as soon as I put it in her mouth, she stopped. It
Mm.
was like, oh, thank goodness. Now we can get some sleep. That's the common complaint about being a parent and having, babies that don't sleep through the night. But
Absolutely.
I'm grateful. So, uh,
You had said something I wanted to just bring it back because I don't know if I fully answered. My journey was just like yourself. My car was like a university on wheels. I always listened to things that interest me, and health was a big part of it.
mhm.
Saying about the hiccup, whenever I have hot, like really hot foods, I maybe put too much hot sauce, I
Yeah.
hiccup crazy, and
Oh, really?
it's out of control. It's just like, and it takes about 5 minutes to get it under control. But it's like those little things you only know by listening to things. And I always had something to listen to because I think it's that appetite to learn, like you
Yeah.
have had and like I have had, that there's information out there, but if you just take all the information, it's overwhelming. So you have to be interested in something, and holistic living always interests me. But now I can just look up a podcast on holistic living and I can dial into what I want to know, not just general, but be more specific about solving my problem. Like I didn't know about a lot of things that we've had conversations about that just I'd heard the word, but didn't know what the outcome was. And it's kind of like go to people you trust to get the answers that you're interested in. And it's kind of like opened up my world because I want to bring guests on that can bring good information to the community, because we do have time to find out exactly what we want through YouTube, through whatever sources you listen to podcasts with. So,
Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's uh, information evolution in our lifetime has been amazing. I mean, I started off in the 90s listening to audiobooks on
yeah.
cassettes.
Yes.
And then I
Yes.
went into CDs, and now
Oh,
it's all digital. I can pull up pretty much anything on my
yeah.
phone and
Yeah.
just dial in to. I mean, it's everything is out there. I mean, somewhere, and
So true.
I'm gonna be part of that and helping to educate people, because one of the things that drives me is making the world a better place however I can. That's kind of why I'm in the
Here.
natural foods industry, because I see that um, there are a lot of things that accumulate in our bodies from what we eat, especially when it comes to preservatives. So the food will be on the shelf longer, but
Yeah.
it's not always good for your body long term. um, that's why people turn to organic and non-GMO, and those things are big time. I mean, I saw a lot of products that if they didn't have the word organic and non-GMO certification on the package,
Mhm.
people would like not trust it.
Yeah.
So they trust things that are cleaner.
Yep.
A big trend in natural foods is um, better for you versions of mainstream products. So, like an organic version of cornflakes,
Mhm.
it's a market edge, as long as you can afford it, which fortunately, uh, there are companies that are really good at marketing and putting things on sale. So you're like, oh, let me try that because it's 2 for $5.
Yes.
Um, and
You know,
it's
you had asked like earlier about the journey. I was listening to a podcast, and for the guy on Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, they asked him like, what, how, we are what we eat. That's what he was sharing. So you got to be aware of what you put in your body. And he used this app called Yuka, Yuka. And I have now, that's my default thing to evaluate things. I told my daughter about it. I've told a bunch of people about it, and it gives me a score quickly, because a lot of times you'll see like manufacturers, they'll put the word like healthy, natural, all these things, words,
yeah,
and you think,
yeah,
well, that makes sense. Or even organic, they put a word organic. Well, I'm scanning these codes now, and I'm going, holy mackerel, I ain't putting that in my body,
well,
because
right. I mean, you gotta really read.
yeah, and
Um,
I don't have time to look at every word that's, I mean, some of these words are like 20 letters and I can't even pronounce them. And I'm trying to figure out, is that something for me? But it breaks it
yeah,
down and it'll say additives, and then it'll tell you what additives are in there. So I think for me now, with your knowledge that I've asked you questions about things and we've had some good dialogue, I'm closing the gap to quickly find out what products are better for me. So I am aware of what I put in my body more and how it affects it. Because sometimes additives you don't know until way down the road if you've taken a certain product that's not healthy for you.
that's right. I was going to say there are products out there where the name of the product
Mhm.
can have like the word organic in the name of the product.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that the product is organic. You got to read the ingredients. Maybe one ingredient out of 7 is organic, but that's
Yes.
not 100% organic. And that's what
Yes.
most people want, is that kind of reliability and safety.
Yes. Well, I want to give. I know I have the controls on my end. So, people like myself, we want to know. Anybody that has spent 40 years in anything is going to be so beneficial to get the answers you need. And I know our community is very interested in holistic living because we're more about, like you said, impact. And if you have a healthy body, you're going to be around for a while to impact the world and make it a
Yeah.
better place. So, going to petekane.me/Jay Tubb, you'll be able to get more information. If you want to be a guest on Jay's podcast and you're into holistic and want to be able to share with our community your you know your story with Jay on holistic. I know he just wants to continue that journey, and we want our community keeps growing, and we have people like Jay who can bring holistic living to your doorstep or to your latest podcast so you can self-educate, because that's really, we both agree, we've used so much of our time to self-educating ourselves because we want to close the gap and want to know what's best for us to have in our body and how we can make a better impact. So
Cool. Thank you, Pete.
absolutely. Absolutely. I love talking holistic. I mean, it's just this has been a joy and an honor to really talk to yourself in that holistic space, because I felt like I've had it in the back of my mind. I've always done these things, but I just did it because I was trying to figure it out. And I like the idea that when I have a question about something, you're my go-to guy in holistic. You and Peter Atias.
Right.
So that is so awesome.
Great. Well, I look forward to more in the future, and thank you.
And I love you to have me back on your podcast whenever you have a chance.
Absolutely.